So today we're going to do Geese Around the Crazy Heart. I didn't go back and look to see if we had done this before. More than likely we have, but I have one to make as a special gift to someone. And I thought, well, heck, I might as well do it on my show for those who missed the other one. And besides, I'm going to show a couple little extra things you can do with this. So this is what we're making. And I've got all my fabrics cut. This is, well, this is the foundation for the heart. And I've got all my pieces cut and they're in order. So I know exactly where to start. So I'm going to start with fabric piece number 1, and I'm using all batiks today, so that's pretty hard to tell right from wrong side. So we're going to say this is the wrong side facing up. This is fabric piece number 1, and I'm going to set the foundation on top of the fabric. When it's like this, it says right up here in the seam allowance, sew with this side facing up, fabric underneath. You want to be able to read all the printing on the foundation, and we call that the front side or the right side. And you're looking through to the wrong side of your fabrics. And this is how you start every block, essentially. There might be a couple that are different, but if they are, we definitely draw your attention to it in the instructions. Okay, this is space number 1, this triangle here, and this is space number 2. So, and this is where I'm going to sew fabric piece number 2 on. So I want about 1/4 of an inch of fabric to go past the line between 1 and 2. You're setting your seam allowance there, so when we turn it over, you know right where to put your fabric piece number 2. You want to make sure it goes at least 1/4 of an inch past the lines on the other 2 sides of space number 1. So we're going to turn this over, so now the right side of the fabric is facing up, and I'm going to take fabric piece number 2, and this block I'm making from scraps, all scraps I cut this morning. We're going to put right sides together, those edges even where it goes the 1/4 inch past the line into space number 2. And then we're going to turn it over, take it to the machine. You want to put your needle down right at the top of that line, just like that. Take my pin out. Take this pin out. And we're just going to stitch on that line. And I just changed threads, so I hope the tension is right. And you stop where the line stops. If you're new to this, this is our leave-in foundation. We're going to leave this in. The technique is the exact same technique as traditional paper piecing. You are going to use a regular stitch length because you're leaving it in. Okay, that was step number 1, to stitch it. Step number 2 is to press it. I like to set my stitches so when I open my fabric, I have a flatter seam. It's not going over a ridge of stitches. When you set it, what you're doing is you're setting those threads into your fabrics so you don't have so much of a ridge. Okay, space number 3 is up here, and this is where we're going to sew it on. So we're going to put our straight edge even with our next seam line, and that's all we're concerned about is the next space. Don't worry about any of the rest. And all of this fabric that's exposed, it's okay to cut it all off. use our add a quarter ruler. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a little, this is a 6-inch one, and it's got, I don't know how to show you. It's got a little lip there, and it measures a 1/4 inch. The lip does. So it just hooks onto your straight edge and leaves you with that perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. So now when I turn it over, I know right where to set my next piece. And if you've cut your piece the size we tell you to in your directions, you know when you sew it on, it's going to cover the space it's supposed to. So we put right sides together again. I like to put a pin in it because it just helps it, you get it to the machine a little easier. Okay, and then we're going to just put our needle down right there. Take my pin out. And these first few pieces that I'm adding they're just all one piece I've cut according to the cutting chart. When we get to the bigger pieces is when it gets fun. And then we're back to step number 2, pressing. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3 done. Number 4 is over here. And I'm right-handed, so just turn it around so it's convenient for me. This is where we're going to sew number 4 on. Fold that foundation back. Use our add a quarter ruler. If you were with me a few weeks ago when we talked about organizing our stash and everything, I've added one more thing to the different ways of saving my scraps. To me, this is big enough to save. I know a lot of you say, don't worry about it. But it's so pretty also. When I get the remodeling done, I will show you this. But I bought great big clear canisters, and I throw them in by color. So it's decorative and it's useful. So I don't throw those away. If it's an inch and a half or bigger, I save it because I have a new miniature quilt that we're going to be working on. Okay, this is fabric piece number 4. And I want to explain. This line here is the part of number 4. Piece number 4 comes all the way down to here, and you want at least 1/4 inch past there. So what I do to make sure that it's going to cover is I put the top left corner up I want to go just a teeny bit past the broken line. And then that way this edge over here is well past this low point here. And that way you know it will cover the whole space. So you do have to look at what you're covering. Don't just center the piece on there and think it's going to cover. And there's a couple more spots like that on this block. And this is a great block. If you've never used our product before, this is a great block to learn on. Because the crazy quilt is, if you make a mistake, it's really easily correctable. You can just add another piece in there. Who's going to know? Hey everybody, hope you're having a good Saturday. I've had a very productive day. I have to show you what we're going to be working on next week. I'm not quite done with this little project, but I love the three-dimensional look. And it is so simple. I'm going to do it in 3 different sizes. I'm going to have it in a mini quilt. I got we buy our wire frames for our mini quilts from Ackfeld Wire, and they just sent me a new frame, a new design they came out with. And so I am going to make a mini quilt. This is perfect because it's long and narrow. So we'll get it done and put on there. Have it for you on Tuesday. Okay, that was number 4. Number 5 is right here. It's this great big piece. So I'm going to put my straight edge along the line where we're going to sew number 5 on. And you can use if you have a 12-inch ruler, this is convenient to use the 12-inch. But before I knew there was a 12-inch, you saw how I just scooted it up. That's what I would do for the bigger pieces. So I find when I'm working in this small area that the 6-inch is much more convenient. Okay, so you can see this is quite a large piece here we're going to cover. So I have to show you what I did this morning. I grabbed a bunch of pieces of fabric and just started cutting and sewing. And I got to decide which way I want to put it here. I think we'll go like that. So now this is another one that the point extends off extra here to the right. So you want to make sure that you get your fabric that far. The left side, there's nothing magic or difficult or different about it. It's going to come in another 1/4 of an inch over here. The line's going to extend that far. So make sure you've got ample over here, but this is going to go well past your point out there. So I'm going to put a pin in it here. Let me move that down. Take it to the machine. So this is really, it's going to be a whole bunch of small pieces make up this one large space on in the heart. And if you're making several of these to be in one quilt, it's a great way to keep the block from being looking too much the same. Your outside lines are the same, but inside, if you make up a whole bunch of small pieces together to fill in these larger spaces, you don't get a patterned look, or it's not a repetitious look, which is kind of cool. Where's my thread? And then we're gonna set those stitches, open it up. That's gonna look cool. Okay, that was number 5. Number 6, it's kind of hard to see, but there's number 6. So we're gonna cut off a lot of this, but I'm gonna keep it because who knows if I might want to use it again. Number 6 right there. And of course, using the batiks, I think one fabric that this one right here has a little gold metallic. That was the only one I really had to pay attention to. And get a stitch on that line. Get my pin out. But this is a great one to start out with. I do not, the only pattern that I have is this one, and it makes a pretty small quilt. It's 20 by 20 is all. But I think it would make, we also sell packages of just the blocks, and we also sell packages of the flying geese that go around this. And I think it would make a darling baby quilt, and have the geese for the sashing between the blocks. I think 6 blocks is all you'd need. 2 blocks by 3 blocks would be an awesome, and you could use your scraps, all your pastels, or whatever colorway you wanted to go. Eventually, I will be making it up as a pattern, but I would love to have somebody do it and show it off. If I get a chance, I will be. Okay, that's number 7 ready to go. And just center that one. You have to remember that the lines you see on this space, they continue for another 1/4 of an inch. Always keep that in mind when you're putting your pieces on your block. And we have a lot of lines coming together here, so you want to make sure you get your needle down right where it should be. And if you've watched me before, you know I'm really kind of over the top about cutting the threads. I don't like having a lot of threads all over the place. Now see, this is, I didn't even think about it, doing it, but we got a perfect point there, right where it's supposed to be. Actually, I don't think that was designed to be there. It just happens to, because this was all supposed to be one piece of fabric. Well, that's cool. Okay, number 8 is down here. And you're going to see this goes pretty fast. And that's always fun. Whoops. I'm not sure I like this red in here. Hopefully it will all blend. One of my I don't know what you call it, but one of my things when I'm doing a crazy quilt is I don't like to have the same fabric touch itself. So the best way to not have that happen is to not not reuse the same fabric unless you absolutely have to. And that is just, there's not any kind of hard and fast rule. That's just Debbie's thing in her head. You can see this is going pretty darn fast. Eight. Number 9 is over here. Put right sides together. And if your edges aren't perfectly, right together, like is so important in traditional piecing, that's okay, because we're not relying on that perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance to get our block perfect. It's the line that gives you the perfection. So if your edges don't match perfectly, that's okay. Cutting goes really fast because you don't have to be perfect like in traditional piecing. And that's why someone said to me, well, you have blocks that could just be done regular. And I said, I know, but you know what? With our stuff, your cutting goes so much faster. It's so much easier. I wanted to show that there was an alternate way to do basically traditionally pieced blocks. We do have other blocks that are you wouldn't want to do any other way. But that was my purpose for doing so many traditional blocks on our product. Okay, number 10 is another big long piece. Again, I sewed 3 pieces together to make 1 piece of fabric. And I'm trying to decide, do I want it to go like that or like that? I think like this. It's a crazy block. It doesn't matter. This one, this block, I have made for a golden wedding anniversary and framed it. And it goes on a stand, and I embellished it. I went to Michael's and I got these little tiny gold picture frame that you could sew on. And of course, I got 2 of them. I wanted one from the wedding and one from recent, and put those on it in these two big spaces. And I fussy cut a lot of the pieces, and it came out beautiful. I used mostly, obviously, gold for the 50th. A lot of gold metallic, mostly neutral fabrics. It looked very rich. I'll have to do another one so I can share it. I should do one for us. We're going to be celebrating 54 years next month. Bye. Okay, and the last one. And again, I sewed 3 strips together for piece 11. It's really going to look scrappy, which is exactly the look I was going for. Make sure that's there. So if you're new here, I do live shows Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from noon to 2 Pacific Daylight Time. And Laura, my daughter-in-law, does a live show Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, 10 to noon Eastern Daylight Time. So it's 7 to 9 here. And we'd love to have you join us. Tell your friends. And I'm not doing real good this morning keeping up with my messages, or my chat. But it's a good place. I try. Well, Laura does too. We try to share how to do this to make it easy, and then we share tips and tricks. And if there's something particular you want to see, just ask. We'll work it into a show. Okay, this is piece number 12. My heart is done, and now I am going to add the background pieces. So you can see this does go pretty fast. And like I say, I cut all my pieces ahead of time, so I can just sit here and sew. If I wasn't doing this, I would be watching TV, a movie or something, and I could actually pay attention. So you can see I have this is all that's left to do here. And when I cut this morning, obviously, because there was only one of each one of the pieces for the heart, I did those one at a time. But for my flying geese, I cut 8 layers of fabric at a time. You know, you can't get away with that in traditional piecing. But there is a little extra room allowed in the sizes that we tell you to cut everything. And so you can just really knock down the cutting time a lot. And with just anything that's past the outer quarter ruler is fair game for cutting. I think that's going to look pretty good. Turn that over. Sew on the line. Hello, Laura. And remember, this is the project that we're going to work on next week. And I have it in, it's going to be there's 3 different sizes. This one I'm showing you is the middle size. We're going to have a miniature and a larger one that you can use either as a wall hanging also, or the center of quilt. I'm going to grab my 12-inch one. Put that over there. Have you not made the, oh, you want to make the 3-dimensional one? Good. I got just the thing for you to do for that. And it is so simple. You guys are going to be shocked at how simple it is. This one the one I'm working on, the heart one, has to get done because it's a gift for someone special. And I'm trying to decide if I want to embellish it at all or if it's just good the way it is. But see, I have all my geese pieces all cut. Starting to look like a heart now. This is it's called an at a quarter. It's got a lip at a 1/4 inch. So it hooks on to your straight edge and leaves you with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And our last piece. And see, I'm putting a light color over a dark color, so I push it just a couple threads past the one if you see there, you can see that the light color, I pushed it past. It's because in foundation and paper piecing, your seam allowance, the direction your seam allowance goes is determined by the order that you piece in. So in traditional piecing, we would normally say press your seam allowance towards the dark side. But since you don't have a choice when you're paper or foundation piecing, I always recommend pushing the light fabric when you're adding the light fabric over dark fabric to just push it a couple of threads past. I really doubt that with this fabric it would have shown through, but better safe than sorry. Okay, now because this is all covered, because these corners are not attached to the foundation, I like to turn it over before I trim the block. Make sure it's nice and flat. You don't get it distorted. Then I run a line of stitching between the solid line and the broken line. All 4 corners weren't attached, so it just makes it much easier when you're sewing your sashing blocks or border block or whatever you're sewing it to. It just makes it easier to keep it all together, so that you don't accidentally, like, maybe move this a little bit when you're pinning it to the whatever you're going to sew it to. I didn't used to do this, but when we were demoing at quilt shows, a lot of times, you know, it's quite a while. Yeah, people handling the blocks for one thing, and it would be quite a while before maybe the blocks got sewn together into a quilt. And I just noticed that when I did this, it didn't matter how long or how much they'd been handled, they were still the perfect size when if you have a bias edge especially, you really want to have it attached. And it doesn't take that long to do this. And it does save in the long run. My machine sounds terrible. Okay, so once you've done that, I do like to usually give it a little press. And this is not fusible. And yes, I do use steam. There's my ruler. Now you want to go around and trim around the outside edge 1/4 inch from the solid line. Don't always depend on the dotted line. The reason the dotted line is there, it's not a cutting line, it's to make sure you get your fabric out that far so that you have ample fabric in your seam allowance. 1/4 inch. Probably too much glare here. Okay, so there's the heart. Oh, that came out. Oh, I like that very much. These colors are specifically, they're for a reason. So, okay, and I've got my border pieces cut. So I'm going to attach these to the side. And this is where I should go back and change my thread color. I think I'm going to do that. And put this in. And you can see I have a large cone. That's normal. I normally just use a neutral thread. But I didn't want, I've been having so much trouble with the tension on this machine. And it's all bobbin tension. I've been reading about it. It says it doesn't like a softly wound bobbin. So I have to put extra tension when I'm winding the bobbins, and that has helped a lot. But it just seems that there should be one more little catch in the bobbin to help with the tension, because there's really no tension on it. And I've tightened the case up as much as I can, and it's still very temperamental. So when we sew on like this little border, I like to sew it on the side, the foundation side, because if you have any points that come all the way out to the edge, you'll see where they are and you'll be sure not to cut them off. It's like right here I have a point. Of course, on this crazy patch it wouldn't matter, but I know it's supposed to be a point, so we sell the out of quarter rulers. We sell them. Most quilt stores carry them. So the heart block itself finishes at 9 inches, so I'm adding a 2-inch by 9.5 inch little border. And remember, we're going to be leaving this foundation in. It's a sew-in, extremely lightweight fabric that we have made for us. They come pre-printed. Every package has a cutting chart. If you buy just the blocks, you're still going to get a cutting chart. The block packages don't have specific directions on how to make the block. Usually, most of the block packages do have general foundation piecing instructions, and will show you where to place the first piece, because that's the number one question I'm asked is, how do I start? So we try to, okay, I need to trim this down. I mentioned, the other day, that a lot of times when I'm doing borders, if it says to cut it 2 inches, I might cut it 2 1/4, just because I'm never quite sure that my 1/4 inch seams are truly quarter. So this should measure, it was supposed to be cut at 2 inches, so take a 1/4 inch off, that's 1 3/4. So yes, see, I did add a 1/4 of an inch. So I trim it down. It just, it's one extra step, but I'd rather have it come out right. That's why I was pretty picky doing traditional piecing, but there's still a few little things I do left over from that. Okay, now I'm going to add a 2-inch by 12.5 inch border strip, and I am going to pin this in a couple places. Just, I want to make sure that that seam allowance that's pressed towards the outside stays that way. And I'm going to do it this way. Actually, maybe I won't pin it. I think it's pretty accurate. There's my 1/4 inch line there. There we go. And this one, this edge has the top points of the heart, so you really don't want to cut those off. So if you stitch on the line, they should be good. You know, I have a ruler, I think it's for scrapbooking, that has 4 different size lips on it that are an 1/8, 3/8, a quarter, and a half. Or a quarter, wait, an 1/8, a quarter, 3/8, and a half. But I'm not, it's just not, to me, it's not as convenient because you know for sure I would put it the wrong one, wrong side, wrong direction, whatever. The Attacord is just super handy, and I always have, there's always one student in my class that doesn't think they need it. The 6-inch one we sell for $7.95. We have not raised our price, I don't think, ever. So it's a very inexpensive tool, and it's really the only specialty tool you need to make anything that we sell, any pattern or block that we sell. I mean, sometimes there's templates that would be handy, but not necessary. I really think the Attacord is necessary. It's just much more accurate than trying to use a regular ruler. That lip just holds it in place. Okay, let's press these. And again, I cut this a little bit wider, so let me trim it down. And then it will be all ready when I get my geese done. 1 3/4 inches from the seam line. One 3/4. Okay, so this is done. Remember, this is what we're going to be doing on Tuesday. It's not done yet. Not quite. I got 2 more to make. Anyway, let's put this up here. So there's my heart. I like that. Those colors work good together. Okay, and now I've got my geese. Where did I put the found? Oh, Let me unplug this and get, hopefully don't trip. So the geese come in the package like this. You can see in the foundation where I cut out the heart. There's this blank, big expanse of blank foundation. Keep it. It works great if you should put too hot of an iron on your block and melt it. This is a non-woven, but we do shrink it at 400 degrees for 30 seconds. So we know it can take the heat, but when you first turn your iron on, you will have hot spots. I had a guy that worked for an iron company tell me that when you first turn your iron on, it will have hot spots actually up to 600 degrees. So if you have an iron that goes on and off automatically, and if it's gone off, tilt it. This one does go off automatically. Tilt it, let it warm up, and then before you put it on your foundation, just swipe it like this to make sure that the heat has evened out on the plate of the iron. And if you're worried, take a piece of this extra and put your iron on it and make sure it's not too hot, and that's just fine. And you'll find I use a medium steam setting. I don't know if you can see, this is the dial. It's wool silk, where I can get a little bit of steam, and I find it's perfect. I like to use a steam because I feel like I get a flatter seam. Okay, so I have all my flying geese cut. I have 4 stacks that are all in the same order, so that's how I want to do these. I want all 4 sides with the geese around the heart, like this, the geese. I want them to go in the same order. So it will have a patterned look to it, but that's what I want. So we're going to start with the first half square triangle. And remember, these are batik, so there's no right or wrong. This is the wrong side if you're using regular fabric. And you want to set this right over top. And this one, this is space 1, space 2, space 3. And you can set it so you get about 1/4 of an inch of fabric past the line between space 1 and 2, and also 1 and 3. That will save you having to trim for number 3. And you can either pin it, or I just run a little bit of stitching in the seam allowance between the dotted line and the solid line. And then it's attached. Okay, and then we're going to turn it over. Oh, and when you're doing it like this, make sure you can read all the numbers. That's the right side of the foundation. We talked about that earlier with the heart. Okay, here's my background fabric. Well, I just need one. This is space 2. We're going to just center that on there. And I still do like to pin. Ouch. I don't like to pin myself, but... Okay, now we're just going to stitch on the line. And remember, we use a regular stitch length. Whatever you use for your traditional piecing, use for this, because you're leaving this in. It doesn't add any weight or bulk to your quilt, but it does keep everything nice and straight. And I know I am told when I do quilt shows or I do trunk shows and workshops, everybody, most people, not everybody, but most people don't like doing flying geese because it's very hard to not cut off the points or the bias edges will stretch. We just sewed bias edge to bias edge and it's not going to stretch. Okay, and since we already set this with 1/4 inch for piece number 3, we'll just add that. Right sides together. And if you're ever in doubt of how to set the piece, just set it the way it's going to go when it's right side up, and then just flip it over and put your edges together. Sometimes if you have a weird angle, it does get confusing. Just lay it the way it's supposed to go when it's done, and then just flip it over, you know, on the edge where you're going to sew it on. And then we'll take it to the ironing mat, and I like to set my stitches. It gives you just a little less ridge to fold this back over, so you get a good flat seam. And you want these seams to be as flat as possible because now we're going to sew across here, so you want these 2 seams nice and flat so that it will be flat after you add the next piece. Put our straight edge along the next seam line where we're going to add piece number 4. Fold it back. You never want to cut your foundation. And then this is where you put your add 1/4 ruler. It just hooks on there. It has a 1/4 inch lip. So when you trim that off, there's your 1/4 inch seam allowance. So then you open that up, and you know right where to put your next piece. You know it's gonna fit. And I just kind of eyeball it in the center. And then we turn it over and stitch on the line. And I see, oh, that's the fabric. I thought it was thread. Whoops. And then we'll take it to the mat. Open it up. Give it a good press. Oh, look at that point. Look at that point. Just by sewing on the line. Okay, normally I would tell you cut for number 5 next, sew it on, come back and cut for 6. But on the flying geese, you can cut both, trim both at the same time, the same trip to the cutting mat. So I trim for number 5, and then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to trim for number 6 at the same time. Saves just a little bit of time. And there's nothing wrong with saving time. Okay, then we're going to take fabric piece number 5. That's a background triangle. See, these are the ones I was saying I cut 8 layers at a time. And they don't have to be exactly perfect. But it made it go fast. I think I needed 32 squares cut. So I cut 8 layers, cut 4 stacks of 8, and there were my 32. And then at the same time, I did the 1 diagonal cut to get all my half square triangles, and boom, that was it. I cut 3.5 inch by width of fabric strips. I'm sorry, did I cut 8 or 6? I guess I only cut 6 and did 6 cuts. Anyway, we have plenty. Yeah, I did six cuts. I ended up cutting 36. I only needed 32. Okay, and then as you're going, once you get this first one done, I center the corner here with this seam line below, because the seam line, if you just drew the line right out, it would go right out, so you know it's centered. It's just sort of a visual helper. Turn it over. So you do all your work on the foundation side. And I'm putting a light over a dark so you'll see a little sliver of the light. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little sliver of the light fabric sticking out past the dark fabric. You want to do that so you don't run the risk of having a shadow of the dark fabric showing through when you open the light fabric up. Guys, it took less than an hour to make that heart block. That's awesome. Okay, then we're going to trim to add piece number 7. So we're going to trim this extra fabric down, fold the foundation. Don't ever want to cut your foundation. And you don't want to cut without your add a quarter ruler. And I tell my students who have never done this before, I don't have any tape here. When I first started paper piecing, to remind me to use the add a quarter, I would set it like this with my straight edge, and then I taped it. Whoops. Taped it up and around so it was like a hinge. So I could put this here. You know, that would be laying out like that. Fold this back. And then it's right there, so it's really hard to not remember to use it. And until you get really into a rhythm or, of doing this, that was the best way to keep me reminded. Okay. When I'm adding the big one, I like this point down here. I just kind of make sure that it's centered. Pull that down. Like I say, there's plenty of fabric. The size of the fabric is plenty. So if you're off center a little bit, it's not going to matter. And then we're just going to sew on this line. Take my pin out before I get to it. Whoa. Press this open. Set those seams or stitches. And another perfect point. I don't even have to hide it, look at it before I show it to you. Okay, now remember we're going to trim both sides at on the same trip to the cutting mat. There's a few blocks you can do this on. Most you can't. Because you're building as you go. You can't get ahead of the next number, but there's a few blocks you can. Okay, background piece. And the nice thing about our foundations that you can see through them, that fabric got folded under. If I was doing paper, I would not know that. But see, you can see the corner sticking out here. So I know it's fine now. And I would not have noticed it if I was using paper. I would have sewn it, and then I would have had to unsew it. And when you use those little tiny stitches for paper piecing, when you take the stitches out, it compromises the accuracy of your pattern, because it usually will come apart. And then you got to tape it. And with ours, if I had not noticed that and stitched, I could take it out. I would say take it out on the fabric side so you don't run the risk of puncturing a hole in your foundation. But the foundation itself is sort of self-healing, and you wouldn't even know you stitched on it. So it keeps its shape. I think I need water in my iron. Okay, put that like that. And see, I see that tail up there, so I know it's set properly. You could do these, you could chain piece this. I have the 4 stacks over here. You could just have four separate stacks, and you could just chain piece if, if you want. Then all 4 strips would all be done at the same time. I'm not There's certain ones that I like to, certain blocks I like to chain piece, but I don't know that it's really any faster. Sometimes I'll chain piece to a certain point and then I'll take one and finish it. Take the next one or add more pieces to all of what's left. And I don't know if I'm explaining that real well, but and if you watch me for any length of time, you know I'm very picky about the threads. Another perfect point. And then when we sew this on to the heart in the center, we will be sewing on this side, because when we sew down on this solid line, it will make our points on the sides come out perfect. So it's really flying geese. Once you make flying geese on our foundations, you won't want to make them any other way. And we do offer them in quite a few different sizes. So you can use them in quilts that you would are otherwise traditional piecing, but you can do your flying geese on our foundations. You won't know the difference between where you have the foundations and where you don't. You know, it won't make a difference in the weight. Once your quilt is quilted, you won't be able to tell. But it's just so much easier. I mean, look at those points. Hi guys, thanks for joining us. If you want to get notified when we're coming on, you can subscribe to our channel. We do 6 days a week. We have live shows. I do Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, noon to 2 on Pacific Daylight Time. Laura does them Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 to noon Eastern Daylight Time. So that's 7 to 9 here on the West Coast. And what time's my noon is, 3 to 5 on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Tried to get a variety of times. Hit you the right time one way or the other. We try very hard not to work on the same projects at the same time. And then we do keep all of our videos on our channel, so you can go back and refer to them. If you decide you want to make this quilt, it will be here so you can watch and have basically a private lesson for free. If you're on the East Coast, I know it's a long ways off, but I just agreed to do a couple of workshops at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Show in Hampton, Virginia next March, first week of March. I'm working on the 2 projects we'll be doing. Bring you something new. We'll be doing a basic class, that's a half day, and then we're going to do an advanced class, that is a 6-hour class. And we'll be, when you sign up, you'll get a supply list and a cutting list, so you can come to class with everything cut and organized. I'll have all of that available. And if you belong to a guild and would like to have us do a trunk show, a lecture, workshop, we do it all. We do travel for that. You might suggest it to your programs chairman of your guild. And if it's very far, we really recommend that you contact other guilds in your area so you can save money on travel and all that. This is just such a mindless, fun way to do flying geese. I want to get this one done before we go today, because this one, when you sew it on to your to the center block, it's done with a partial seam. And if just it's very easy, but just would like to show you. I love this background fabric. I can't tell if it's lavender or gray. I think it's gray with a little bit of a lavender tint. Now, if you try making the flying geese and your points aren't coming out perfect, you need to look on this side and see where your stitching is. Because if you're off a little bit, your points you won't get those perfect points. And once you figure out exactly, I know when I first started, you see, I'm on the line, all 3 lines. When I first started, see, I'm a little wavy off the line. You can see the black line here, but I made sure by the time I got to the seam allowance, I got myself lined up. And that's the important part. I use, this is a 30 weight thread, I believe, might be 40, but it basically should cover the line. Your stitching should, You shouldn't see if you're using a light colored thread like I am, you really shouldn't. The goal is to not see the printed line after you've stitched. And if you have trouble staying on the line, first of all, I recommend an open toe foot on your machine. I was showing, I think on Thursday, I was showing this. It's called a hinged standard foot, if you can see that. The toes are closer together. I ordered this clear one, and the toes are too far apart. They do follow, I have the 4 feed dogs on my machine, and these follow the outer ones that are on the outside. This hinged foot, the toes are closer, and they catch actually on the inner feed dogs. So it doesn't allow your fabric and foundation to distort as it goes through, and you can see exactly where your needle is stitching. That's the kind of foot that comes on the vintage machines, like the featherweights and such. And I love the feet on my vintage machines. And I have been trying to, when I go to a quilt show, I work with the reps from the different sewing machine companies, trying to get them. I've had them digging through everything, trying to see if they make such a foot. And I got this catalog and saw that, so I've ordered it. It should be here any day. And I'll give it a try. And if it's as I hope it is, I will be carrying those, because it's really, it really helps. I'm not crazy about this foot that I use. I can see my line going right through the center there, but I'm so used to the vintage foot. I mean, this one's okay, but it really is important that you can see where your needle is actually sewing. And if you have trouble, I started to say, if you have trouble following a straight line or a curved line, but to follow a line, what I tell my younger sewers is take the thread out of your machine, put an old needle in, because you're gonna dull it. Take the bobbin out and practice sewing on binder paper, or you can just take plain paper and draw lines and practice following them. Because I think we're used to looking at the bed of our machine and watching our 1/4 inch guide, that we aren't used to looking at the needle itself. So it does take a little bit of practice, but there's ways to do that without wasting fabric or thread or a pattern, till you feel comfortable following a line. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, because if you haven't done this before, your natural instinct is to follow the edge for your guide for your 1/4 inch. I mean, that's how we all learned. I myself always had a problem keeping my fabric even for that 1/4 inch seam allowance. To me, this seems much easier to follow a line, but But these foundations don't add any weight or bulk to your quilt, and you leave them in. And I especially love to do pieced borders because it really helps keep it from getting the wavies. You know, nothing upsets me more than seeing somebody make a gorgeous quilt, but it doesn't hang right. And there's a couple of reasons for that. But it's the natural tendency of fabric, because it's woven, it wants to stretch, even if it's not on the bias. And when you do your borders, if you don't have piece borders, you need to measure down the center to get the length of your border, down the center of your quilt, because your two outside edges may be slightly different. But if you make both of them the same length as in the center, that helps to get rid of the wavies. And when you put your binding on, you do not want to stretch your quilt. Even after it's quilted, it will stretch. So there's all kinds of, but if you have pieced foundation in your border, the foundation isn't, because it's a non-woven, it doesn't stretch. So it really helps. We are almost to the top, yay. And again, we get to trim both sides in one trip to the cutting mat. My remodel here is taking a little longer because my workers are working on another project elsewhere. So I get to work in a mess a little longer. That's okay. I can handle it. This fabric. Okay. And You'll notice that we're stitching. When we come down here, there's no more seams that are crossing this, so we run our stitching all the way out to the broken line because I don't back stitch on these, because if you go too far past the line, when you go to fold the foundation back to trim, if I would have run my stitching out past this line, when I put my straight edge down and I fold this back, it wouldn't allow this to fold flat. I have never ripped this doing that. If I go a little past the end of the line, when I do open this up or fold this back, fold the foundation back, if my stitch had gone too far, I can pick it out and make it lay flat, because you don't want to distort it and you don't want to rip a hole in it, because then that might distort it. And as long as you have stitching going over, seams, crossing seams, it will all hold without back stitching. And this is my last goose. Beautiful points. Excited to see how this is gonna look. We've got so many new things going on, you guys. It's so exciting. We are getting ready for a bunch of quilt shows in the fall, and we wanted to have all new stuff. So Laura and I have just been working and working and working, trying to get it all together and get our fabric kits put together. It's a very exciting time. And I still wake up every morning excited to go to work. I mean, how lucky can a girl get, or an old lady get to get up and tell your husband you're going to work, and you go get to sew or design or play with fabric all day? It doesn't get any better than that. Hello, Lorraine. I'm going to be cutting fabrics all day tomorrow. I'll get yours done. Everything should go out on Monday. Okay, guys, we are all covered. I'm going to just stitch across the top because these corners are loose. So I'm just going to run a line of stitching just across the top to hold these two top corners. Everything else is attached evenly, to the foundation. All the fabric is. So I just wanted to do that. And then we're going to trim this down. Let me put these all together. Where's my ruler? Going to trim a 1/4 inch from the solid line. We do that on all of our blocks. The only reason the broken line is there is to make sure you get your fabric out that far. If you cut everything a 1/4 inch from the solid line, then when you go to join two pieces together, two blocks together, your cut edge and your 1/4 inch seam, the solid line, should all match. And this side. It's a big weekend or week around here. We live in cattle country, Central Coast, California. So this weekend is a big rodeo. And next week, for the 4th of July, is a big biker rally. So it's going to be busy around here. So there we have our strip. Let me take this down off the wall. Okay, now, I mentioned that this is going to be a partial seam. So what you want to do is we're going to match the bottom edge, but you see the top edge is too long. So we're going to just, when we sew this, we're not going to go all the way to the top. We'll stop about up here. Want to make sure that that's at a 1/4 inch right there. I'm going to put a pin in it. And match that. Okay. So we're going to sew this from about here down to the bottom. Because when you open it up, you want this loose. Tell you what I'm going to do. You don't want to sew all the way up to the top because you're going to open this up. This will be loose so you can fold it back because you're going to be, I don't have one cut here. You'll be putting another border on this side here, and it will go from this end down past this. So they're all I don't want to say it. What I'll do is I will sew this one, open it up, make my next border. My next border will go all the way from the top up here, all the way down to here. So then the next one, when you open that border up, the next one will go from the end down to this point. The last border will go from down here with the border on it. It'll go from the end to the end here and be straight on up that way. Then you fold this one up and you'll finish this seam up there. So that's why we just do a partial seam here. So I'm going to sew on this line, and you can backstitch. And get my pin out of the way. And let's and you want to sew right on the line. That way you don't cut those points off on the sides of your flying geese. I'm gonna sew right to there. I'll back stitches so it doesn't come loose. Beautiful. All those points are right where they're supposed to be. And we're going to press the seam allowance towards that inner border. So there you have it. Oh, that's going to be beautiful. Guess if you could see it. Okay, so I'm going to finish this up and I will share it with you on Tuesday. And remember, we're going to be doing these empty boxes. If you look at it, it looks like they're 3 sides have solid walls and 3 sides have open windows. And I'm not sure how I'm going to be arranging the color. None of those are so. Let me show you the block. This is one block. Well, it's made up of 3 blocks, but that's one empty box, what we call empty boxes. So super easy to do, a lot of fun, goes fast. So we're going to do this on Tuesday. This is the middle size. This finishes, the edge finishes at 4 inches. And I'm going to do one that finishes, I believe it finishes at 2 inches. And then I'm going to do one that finishes probably 6 inches. I don't know if I want to make it any bigger than that. I think 6 inches would be good. So we'll see. If there's not a big difference between the 4-inch and the 6-inch, I'll up the size to maybe 8-inch. That way, if you want to use some big prints, they're going to show up a little better. So that's what we're going to do on Tuesday. Probably work on it Tuesday and Thursday. And then I have some other great new projects that we'll be working on after that. So, yeah, it's a new pattern. I've got the pattern written. It'll be on the website Tuesday morning before I start the show. And I'm going to show it done with colors totally different ways. Give you an idea of what you can do with it. So, but it's a lot of fun. Anyway, that's about it for today. I don't want to bore you making more flying geese. I am going to sit here and do them, though. I want to get this one done. I'm very happy with how it's coming out. And I don't think it's going to get embellished at all. I think it's just beautiful the way it is for where it's going. So I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. I'm going to go do a little gardening too this weekend. So I've got seeds popping up. So it's exciting time. We'll see you on Tuesday. Don't forget, check Laura out Monday morning. She's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 to noon Eastern Time. I'm Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, noon to 2 Pacific Time. So hope to catch you. Let your friends know what we're doing so they can see how much fun we're having. And if you want, we would love to have you join our chat group on Facebook, where we share our projects and our support of each other, answer questions, and just have some fun sharing things. What else? I think that's it. Anyway, have a great weekend, rest of your weekend, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. Take care. Thanks.